Top 10 Unexplained Paranormal Phenomena. 1. Solar Miracle. On October 13, 1917, between 30,000 and 100,000 people gathered in the Portuguese village of Fatima to witness a miracle predicted by 3 children. They subsequently reported seeing a spinning disc breaking out of the dark clouds just above their heads. Before it disappeared, it illuminated the crowd with a bright multicolored light. The phenomenon was observed for about 10 minutes, and the most impressionable Portuguese later claimed to have seen the Virgin Mary, the Mother of God. What happened that day remains a mystery to this day. Nevertheless, in 1951, the Pope officially proclaimed the event a miracle. Some scholars think that people have had visions because they have been looking at the sun for too long. 2. Devil's Footprints. After a heavy snowfall in 1855 in Devon County, England, locals discovered very strange footprints. They were bifurcated and stretched for about 170 kilometers, causing people to conclude that Satan himself had taken a walk in the frost here. The villagers were so frightened that they refused to leave their houses. They subsequently reported that the footprints were found in places that were completely impossible to reach on rooftops and in enclosed areas fenced off by high walls. Aside from the version about the devil deciding to cool down after leaving the hot hell, there are many hypotheses trying to explain this phenomenon. Runaway kangaroos, jumping rats, an experimental balloon that flew away from its owners, badgers. But, as is clear, all of this is highly speculative in nature. 3. The Haunted Mansion. There is a very famous mansion in Los Angeles that is home to a recording studio. Stars such as the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, and David Bowie have all worked here. But it's also known as a haven for evil spirits. The drummer of Slipknot said that he was sexually abused by a ghost in the basement and that he would never go there again. The lead singer of the same band photographed 2 mysterious floating spheres in another part of the building. The Red Hot Chili Peppers drummer refused to spend the night here while working on recording albums. At the same time, the band's guitarist John Frusciante said that the local spirits add positive energy. According to him, he even handmade himself in the presence of ghosts. 4. Black-eyed children. In 1998, journalist Brian Bethel reported an event that shook him to the core. 2 boys who had completely black eyes approached him and asked for a ride in his car. Brian stated that he had lost all control of himself out of fear. He had an incredible urge to do what the children asked as if they were controlling him. After the author's article was published, reports of similar cases began to come in from all over the world. They were not accompanied by any evidence, so they were written off as fits of hysteria and imagination. Bethel is still reeling from the story and keeps bringing it up, which leads skeptics to the conclusion that he is only trying to draw attention to himself, and that it is a means of making money and nothing more. 5. Dyatlov Pass. On the night of February 2, 1959, during the hike in the Ural Mountains, 9 tourists were killed. Their corpses were found on the slope of Mount 1079. 6 died of hypothermia, 3 had fractured skulls and chests. There were no signs of a struggle, but people had fled their tents, some barefoot. One of the dead girls was missing her tongue, lips and eyes. The investigation concluded that the tourists died as a result of an unknown force majeure. It was also reported that unusual orange orbs were observed in the sky that night. This led to hypotheses of an encounter with evil aliens or Bigfoot. The most logical and rational explanation of the tragedy, until recently, seemed to be that the tourists had accidentally wandered into a secret military site, where they had died as a result of testing mines or shells. Already this year there are reports that the Russian prosecutor's office is continuing to look into the case, and it is possible that in the near future this mystery will have an explanation. 6. Elise Lam's death. Elise Lam's body was found in a water tank on the roof of a hotel in Los Angeles in 2013. How it got there is still a mystery. Hotel surveillance footage showed the girl acting very strangely shortly before her death. On them, it was as if she was interacting with someone invisible, hiding, talking, and gesticulating. Paranormal experts claim that she was possessed by an unholy force, and this even seems to be supported by the fact that no one has ever been able to figure out how Elise got into the completely inaccessible tank. There was no ladder near it, the lid was too heavy for one person, and the police dogs found no trace of the girl on the roof. Elise's death remains a mystery, and she is often associated with what is shown in the horror movie Dark Water, in which an evil spirit drags people underwater. 7. The case of the lead mask. In 1966, the decomposing bodies of two young technicians were found on a hilltop in Brazil. Both were wearing waterproof raincoats, business suits, and lead masks. Beside them lay two wet towels and a notebook with cryptic instructions: 4:30 p.m. be in the specified place. 6:30 p.m. swallow capsules, protect metals after event, wait for mask signal. There were no visible injuries on the bodies of the deceased. The autopsy showed that the internal organs were too badly decomposed, and it was impossible to conduct analyses. All sorts of ufologists are convinced that the incident is somehow related to the aliens with whom the dead allegedly tried to communicate. A more down-to-earth explanation is that the young men ended their lives due to a drug overdose. 8. Allagash. In 1976, 4 men fishing on the Allagash River in the American state of Maine reported that the boat they were in had been swallowed by a huge glowing ball. Frightened, they began rowing toward shore. The sphere soared upward, illuminated them with light, and then disappeared. Upon returning to camp, the men were stunned to find the fire they had built burned out. They reckoned it would be over in a few hours, since they had only been gone a short time. They soon realized that they had lost sight of the considerable time that had elapsed. Subsequently, they all had nightmares about giant insect-like creatures experimenting on humans, taking samples of their fluids and skin for analysis. Journalists interviewed the abductees individually, and their testimonies matched. In addition, they all successfully passed a polygraph test. 9. Roland Doe. In the 1940s, Catholic priests tried several times to exorcise the devil from Roland Doe, a miner in Maryland. The boy's parents were alarmed that he spoke ancient languages, had supernatural powers, and even levitated. After seeing objects flying around their son, the worried mom and dad called the local priest, who also witnessed the devilry. During one of the religious medical sessions, Roland freed himself from the restraints and cut the clergyman's hand with a piece of the bed. A colleague of the victim later said that he was able to read the words hell and evil on the skin of the boy. The reasons for the young man's violent and mysterious behavior remain unknown to this day. According to one version, he was mentally ill. Those who believe in all kinds of devilry are convinced that this was one of its manifestations. 10. Doris Beater. When Doris Beater claimed that 3 ghosts regularly beat her and her children, few believed her. Perhaps because, she said, they also harassed the woman sexually by sinking their fangs into her back and buttocks. Nevertheless, in 1974, Dr. Barry Tuff of the University of California visited the woman to verify her claims. He and some of his entourage observed colored lights flying around the room, and some even witnessed a force tossing Doris from one corner of the room to another. Tuff concluded that this was a paranormal phenomenon, but skeptics tended to see the cause in Doris Beater's alcoholism and schizophrenia. Be that as it may, the ghosts haunted the unfortunate woman until her death.